Hi, my friends, and welcome into this week's episode of the Forte Catholic Podcast. I'm Taylor Stroll, and I'm so glad that you are here, and I'm so glad that Father Anthony Sciarappa was here. We have a great conversation. He gets off an all-time rant, just absolutely all-time rant from Father Anthony. I give some updates about my front lawn and how it connects to my spiritual life, including, but not limited to, an update on my feelings on burying St. Joseph in my front yard, so that my house will sell. We have a very fun time talking about that. We also talk about Parish date night and the ensuing date day that my wife and I had because of it, and how we really enjoyed that evening at the Parish date night. And then we actually did what we said we were going to do in response to what we heard and learned that day. I also have some questions about sinning in church. And it's just a grand old episode. Father Anthony and I laughed through the entire thing, so much so that we didn't even take a break. The entire rest of the episode is commercial-free, brought to you solely by me and my favorite priest's laughter. That's it. Enjoy today's show. Hello there! And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll, and that is Father Anthony Sciarappa. Hi, buddy.
Hey, friend. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I sit here surrounded by my family's birthday celebration stuff. So it says happy birthday behind me. It says like happy B-day, actually. Or I guess I can't move my shoulder because then it says something that I don't really want it to say. But there's balloons around me. We're having a celebration!
Yay.
I turned 35, which I was telling people this week that I am 1 year closer to the age that everyone's thought I was for the last decade, and I'll be there in a decade. So,
nice.
Yay!
Hey, welcome to the 35 Club, Taylor.
Oh yeah, I forgot that you're just a couple months ahead of me.
Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting. Well, I the last time you were on, we talked about how when my kids were on the show, Chris mentioned his favorite two priests, and you weren't listed. Well, last week I cheated on you, and everyone called that the Father Anthony 2.0 because it was Father Joseph Anthony, and he hadn't been on in a while. So it was very funny that we're having two Father Anthony, in some sense, episodes in a row. So there's just a lot of people infringing on your territory here recently.
You know what? Take it. I got enough stuff to deal with, Just go for it. If there's a Father Tony who wants to jump on the podcast, bring him on. Let's just do it.
Yeah. Well, I have to thank you for being on today because you're putting on quite a great face especially for those who are just listening to the audio. You're putting on a great face. I just want everyone to know that because you are actually very, very sick this morning. You texted me. You had one of the most serious cases of the Mondays that I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, not sick in the physical sense. So actually, your psychology can affect your physiology. That's what happened. I almost threw a pen through my office wall. Here's the thing. As a priest, and we're speaking generalities, but as a priest, people ask and demand stuff from me all the time.
I really wish you would have been like, in generalities, this guy named Dan.
Yeah. No, it's not a guy named Dan. But because people are looking to grow closer to God, and the priest can help them do that, and it's exhausting, but fun, because these are people I see at Mass who go to confession, who are trying. That it can be draining in a certain sense, but that's what I signed up for. What will kill me one day, or what will throw me in jail because of physical violence I do to somebody else one day, are these people who aren't involved in the parish at all, and then demand everything from me, and if they don't get exactly what they want, start threatening me. It doesn't happen often, but it happens, every once in a while. Let's just say a scheduling mistake. My bad. Also, a little bit of this person's bad as well. I said, this isn't a guarantee, but whatever. And I offer solutions and apologies and that sort of thing. Without fail, if you threaten me by saying what kind of money you give to my parish, I don't care about you anymore. Because you think that actually matters to me. It doesn't, I'm always going to have a job. I don't care what kind of money you give. You giving money to the church does not make you any more special than any other soul. Because guess what this faith is? It's called Christianity. And you don't get special treatment for having more money. I don't care. don't care. In fact, I dislike you very much now. I'll still keep that to myself and do my best to reach out to you and empathize to you. Also, you know what I did? You know what else? I don't make decisions on behalf of the diocese. So if you're mad at me for like a school closing or church closing, that's literally not my fault at all. I have nothing to say about that. That's generational change and all kinds of other factors. And I don't have a pointy hat. I'm just a priest. And also, believe it or not, I didn't sign up to the priesthood to crush your dreams. I'm just doing my best to help. Okay. And you know what's just the icing on the cake? Because nearly every single time this happens, someone says they're never coming to my church again. Okay. I hope you still go to mass. I hope you haven't lost your salvation because of a scheduling error. I hope you're not going to hell because of this. I hope you feel like a real big man when you're burning in regret for all eternity. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it happens. I hope you like go to another mass. If you find peace in another parish. And I suspect, in this case, I've never seen this person before in my 3 years here. Person who said they gave so much money to the church. You know what I do, Taylor? I go to my business manager. And without fail, we look up their name on PDS. PDS is the big database system for every parish. Person hasn't given to the church in 5 years. I'd never seen them at mass in 3. So you know what? I'm done with you. I wish I was a better person. I wish I could, but I can't. I can't because I have thousands of people who actually care about Jesus, and I have to deal with them. And you are just, yeah, errors were made. I'm human. I'm not perfect, sure, but I gave you all kinds of solutions and everything else. And it's these people that I should be able to. Never mind. I was like there should be. This is. I think I've talked about with you on my podcast or on this podcast. Let's fight. I'm okay with that. Like I'm not saying I'm going to win every fight, but I should be allowed to do that. Like, okay, you're really angry at me. I'm sick of your stuff. You should be able to fight me in the parking lot. Like, just give me a heads up and we'll just, see what happens. I think that's a fair way to sell these things.
Meet outside the sacristy, 4:00 under the bleachers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did everything I could to be as kind and as empathetic and apologetic and give you solutions. And if all you want to do is demean me and my vocation and my person and threaten to leave the church and throw your money around, and this does not happen every day, Taylor. But it happens rather often, relatively speaking. And this is what's going to kill me. It's these people that are going to kill me one day, or I'll be thrown in jail because of what happens in the parking lot one day. And that's where I am. That's as put together as I can be after an hour and a half of sitting in a chair, staring at a blank wall, trying not to break anything in my rectory. So that's where I am. So let's have a fun time having a fun podcast. Because all the people of God are beautiful and perfect. And it's only me that ever makes mistakes. And that's great.
Except for Rich Doug. Screw you with Rich Doug.
I'm really glad you haven't guessed the name yet. I'll tell you after the show. It'll be really funny. Okay.
It's Doug, isn't it?
No, not Doug. I won't lie. It's not Doug. No more guesses.
So funny.
No more guesses.
That would be so funny. There was one time I was giving a talk. I actually gave this same talk last week. And now I always tell the story after I do this said thing that I'm about to do. I always tell the story because I'm like, it was just insane. But I walked up to somebody and I was talking to them about how ridiculous, we just take so many stories in the Bible for granted. Where we're just like, yeah, and that's what Jesus said and did because he's Jesus and he's perfect and he's God. It's just like the people in the story did not know that. This is just some guy. It's just some guy, and maybe they thought he was a special guy. But at different points of the story, maybe they'd heard he was a miracle worker. Maybe they'd heard, he gave the Sermon on the Mount and it was awesome. It's the best talk we've heard in years. Yeah. But towards the beginning, literally at the beginning, when he's calling the apostles, when he's calling the first disciples, he speaks to Peter's brother, and then the brother brings Peter to Jesus. And Jesus doesn't say anything before he talks to Peter. He's not like, "Hello, greetings, nice to meet you." Mm-hmm. He's like, "You are called Simon, son of what's his dad's name? I don't remember now.
Jonah, son of Jonah.
Son of Jonah. You are Simon. Yeah, Simon Bar Jonah. You're right. You are Simon, son of Jonah. And your name is now Cephas." That's the first thing he says to him, just completely, ridiculously out of nowhere. So I give that talk, and it has other points, but I'm like, that would be like me coming to this retreat and coming up to you, random person, whose name is George, and saying, George, son of Mason, your name is now Himothy. And like everyone in the room, I'm this this contract killer when it comes to leading people to the Lord. They bring me in, I meet people, I talk, I lead worship, I lead prayer, and then I go away and I leave the youth leaders involved, right? Mm-hmm. The kid's name was George. And his dad's name was Mason. Like, no! they thought I was this incredible prophet. I'm like, I literally just I knew the kid's name because it had, because he had a name tag. That's the only reason, because I met him 8 minutes before. But I got his dad's name right. And like the talk couldn't go on because they were all like, what is this? They were out of it for 10 minutes and then completely in, because then they were like, he is clearly a prophet from the Lord. We must listen to him. So I guessed Doug's name correctly, and now you're sweating.
It'd be funny if, like, after you did that, one kid was like, hey, I got some barley loaves. I'm just gonna leave them here. Maybe
exactly.
Just let's see what happens. Maybe we're hungry. Maybe I don't know.
The irony of you saying that shows that you're kind of a prophet, because literally right after that talk, or I think it was the talk and then a time of prayer, and then we were gonna have dinner. Dinner did not arrive. So that would have been hilarious if they brought me bread and be like, look, here's all that we have. Can you make something happen with this? We had to wait like an hour and a half to order dinner because the previous order didn't go through. So yeah, you're even more of a prophet. You are proving that you're a prophet on top of my prophet story. Very, very
beautiful. Beautiful.
All right. The irony of your heavy case of the Mondays is, for the last, I don't know, I started feeling it a couple months ago, but I think probably over the last 6 months, because the last 6 months have either been very stressful or very boring. Like that's just been kind of the theme of my life. Either incredibly stressful, or I was so stressed for the last 3 months that I was a veggie table for the last week or whatever, right? So I was realizing this, and I was like, the whole theme of this show is the joy of the gospel. Like, that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about the joy of the gospel, which doesn't mean we can't talk about suffering, right? Because, like, the whole point of happiness and joy in the Lord is this not a fleeting happiness. It's like, I find joy in the Lord even in the midst of talking to Rich Doug. Like, that's kind of the whole thing. But I did realize that I'd been complaining a lot over the last 6 months. So I'm like, let's tell some happy stories today. I've got a bunch of great stories. And then, you're like, now let me tell you about Rich Doug. So I just love the irony of me being like, you know what? We need a little bit more joy. And God being like, nah, let's deal with the real stuff for a second too. I appreciate it, honestly.
Yeah. Let me say just one really nice thing that happened to me, because it's delightful.
It was the year of our Lord 2019. The last time I was happy.
I know. Yes, exactly. So my brother, the great Nick Sciarappa, he runs a youth group, and very successful. He wanted to bring me in for a talk, which doesn't happen very often, but he wanted me to talk about the Mass, and he assumed I wouldn't mess it up. So cool. And so I'm there. His youth group, way too many children in this youth group. There are like 90 kids at this thing. That's too many. Too many people. Don't feel comfortable with this many people. Anyway, this kid comes up to me, and he has this very tiny Tupperware container of some green stuff. And I look at him. I'm like, why do you have pesto with you? And I was like trying to like make a joke. It's like, he goes, it's for you. And I was like, what? I thought he was messing with me. I really thought he was messing with me. It's like, no, we grew all the herbs and stuff from the garden, and I made it. And I wanted you to have some of my family's pesto because I knew you're going to be here today. I almost cried. Like, there's this like teenage kid, some dude, you know, and he thought he knew that. I don't know if I ever met him before. I maybe seen him. I don't know. But like, he knew that his youth minister's brother was coming. And he's like, oh, I will bring this priest, a gift of pesto. And my Italian heart just melted with joy. It was just like the most random, nice thing that's happened to me in a long time. Like, it was really great. So thank you to that kid. I'm not going to say your name on the podcast, but
well, now, I know his name. His name is George, and his father's name is either Mason or Rich Doug.
Exactly. So thanks to the pesto kid.
Had he seen you before? Like, did he know you have like the Italian shtick, or is this literally just like God working through this child?
I mean, he knows my brother, and I guess Nick said like my brother, who's a priest, is coming to talk, so he knows that our last name's Sciarappa, and kind of put. I guess the last name
does kind of give it away.
Yeah, I think it's probably that. So it was thought out. It wasn't totally random, but like the fact that it was thought out. He's like, oh, this Guido priest, you know what he likes? He would like a little bit of pesto. It's literally enough for maybe like 5 noodles. I don't know when I'm going to use it. I need to use it soon. like, that's delightful.
Well, you need to eat it today to
Yeah.
counteract your case of the Mondays. I hear pesto is very healing for the Mondays.
It is.
All right, so we'll begin with some of my suffering. My long suffering since about May has been, I have mentioned it multiple times on the show, to the point where, like, either people are tired of me talking about it, or they just assume that it happened and I didn't say anything, which is the most ridiculous thing. Because if I complaining about something publicly for 6 months and then it happened, I would talk about it. I don't know. I don't know how y'all think I get content, but that's it. So our house has been on the market since May. It is currently late October. And right around the time, I think it was within the first month, it was very early. My memory seems about the first month. Maybe it was month 2, because month 1, we had a showing every week. Things seemed promising. We were happy. And then month 2 happened and everything died and nothing, the economy went to crap and mortgage rates went way up and nobody was even wanting to buy houses anymore. So I got on the show a month to 2 months in and I was talking to you about this Catholic, we'll call it a small T tradition, because I don't think it's a big T tradition. Catholic small T tradition of burying St. Joseph in your lawn upside down as a threat to, if you don't sell my house, you will remain upside down in my yard until this house sells. And apparently it's something that has worked for people. Otherwise, no one would do. Like, it seems crazy. Like, it's as crazy as Jesus walking up to me and like, your name's Simon and your dad's Jonah and he didn't get eaten by a whale, but your name is Rock now. Like, there's some very weird things that happen with Jesus. Yes. So I came on here and I did this whole soliloquy about that. I think that's probably Catholic superstition. I have a very good relationship with St. Joseph. He's been, a great model for me in being a husband and a father and like sacrifice and purity, like all these things that I need help with. Like, he's been a constant companion for me in my spiritual life. And so that was 2 months ago. Now we're 6 or 7 months in and my aunt sent me this.
Uh-huh. Little St. Joseph?
It's a little St. Joseph. In my mind, I pictured a large St. Joseph. Like, we have like one of those little 2.5, 3 foot Marys. I thought it was like that. I'm like, first of all, I'm not physically fit enough to dig a hole that big. And wouldn't that tear up my yard and therefore make the house not sell?
Right.
But she sent me this and she texted me and she asked, have you received it? And I said, yes. She said, have you buried it yet? And I said, not yet. Because I didn't want to put it out of the question. And it came with these 2 beautiful prayers that I really like. It explains it. Here we go. Is this the explanation or the prayer? Oh, here's the burial instructions and prayer. Bury the statue close to the for sale sign in the front yard, upside down, facing the house. Number 2, pray to St. Joseph during the burial and until the house is sold. And the prayer says, Dear St. Joseph, head of the most perfect household, foster father of Jesus and guardian of his mother Mary, I confidently place myself and all my concerns under your care and protection. I ask that through your powerful intercession with God, you obtain for me all the help and graces that I need for my spiritual and temporal welfare, and in particular, the special favor I now ask for. It says in parentheses, think of your home and any other petitions, especially family needs. Good St. Joseph, I know with confidence that your prayer on my behalf will be heard by God. And if it is his will, it will be done. Thank you, St. Joseph, for having responded to my call. Amen.
I have thoughts.
Okay.
So first of all, that prayer, beautiful prayer. You would think that like prayer as a devotion, that would be good enough.
Yes.
You would think that that's like, oh, that's a normal Catholic thing to do. We like the saints. We ask for their help. God likes helping us through the saints. Beautiful prayer. Great. I did not know the specifics of burying St. Joseph. And the specifics are very interesting. So upside down, everyone knows. That's the easy part. Near the for sale sign, okay. Facing the house, okay. But now I'm wondering if like someone did this. The first person did this, and St. Joseph loved them very much.
Yeah, how did this start?
I have an idea. Yep. A crazy person wanted to sell their house. But St. Joseph loved them very much, so he allowed it to happen. Okay, he's like, this is embarrassing, but yeah, I'm going to help him out. And they were meant to keep this whole thing a secret, just between them, Joseph, and God, right? Beautiful. But they said they started spreading it. Now it keeps happening all the time. So I imagine like St. Joseph is like, he'll do it to help you out, but he may be a little bit embarrassed by it. Think of like Lord of the Rings when Gimli has to cross that gap and he can't jump and he goes, toss me. This is St. Joseph telling you, like, just do it. Toss me. Just like, I know it's going to be awkward for everybody, but just do it, Taylor. At this point in time, just bury me upside down. This is the thing now. It's out of my hands. This is how it works. Maybe it's like that. I don't know.
So here's where I'm at with this. And I think this is a very scary, slippery slope that I'm on, and I'm aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
I theologically, everything that I said 5 to 6 months ago still stands. Mm-hmm. I think that this is superstitious. I don't think it's actually part of our faith at all. I think it's probably closer to mocking of the saints. That being said, it's been 7 months, and I think I'm going to bury St. Joseph upside down facing my house this afternoon. I'm angry, and I'm letting my anger and my frustration influence what I know to be true, which is literally how people leave Catholicism, and yet the primary thing that I want right now is for my house to sell. Yes, if I die, going to heaven would therefore be the number one at that moment. But right now, and for most of the last 7 months, sell house, number one. So I think I'm going to do it, and I feel tons and tons of shame about this.
I respect all of those feelings. I mean, I would never preach about not burying St. Joseph or whatever else, because it's probably harmless. It does strike me as superstition, but it's just like not a priority on things I'm worried about in Catholicism. We have other priorities to worry about in Catholicism. So, but I totally get an individual being like, no, this is super weird. It seems almost anti-Catholic or quasi-pagan or whatever. Fine. I also understand that sometimes you just want to sell your house. And like, I'm just like, okay, fine. If you want me to like, if the prayer was burn 50 avocados at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, at this point in time, I'm pretty sure you would do it. So
I would have done that a long time ago. That's not disrespecting one of my favorite saints. I don't know if there's a patron saint of avocados, but if there is, I don't know who they are. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's fair. So yeah, I love it. And it will be interesting is that we should make this scientific, and you should definitely keep track of like, when is the hour that you buried St. Joseph and said the prayer for the first time, and like exactly how long does it take? Because if it's like another month, do we credit St. Joseph? But if it's like the next day or if in the week, it's definitely the statue, right?
I think I have to bury it at the witching hour. I think that's what I need to do.
Yeah, I mean, Halloween's around the corner, so like,
I know, it is. Here's two roads diverged in a path, and I'm going to take the one, I don't know if this is least or most traveled by, because I don't know if most Catholics are crazy and would have done this 7 months ago. But here's the thing. I have accepted the fact that I have come to the term of accept. I went through all of the stages of anger and grief, and there was anger and sadness and grief, and then despair is the one that I was probably spent the most time in. And then I went through acceptance, and I got to the point of acceptance where I'm just like, look, it's just gonna. I learned to gift, I learned to grow in patience, all these things, right? But now there's a new path, and no matter what. No matter what happens, I can't see myself being happy with the outcome. Other than the fact that because my house will sell eventually. My house will sell eventually. That's just, it has to happen. It will sell eventually. But the two paths that I will be on from the moment that I bury St. Joseph upside down facing my house next to my for sale sign that's falling over, because it's been 7 months. Have I mentioned that yet? So whenever I do this, there's going to be two paths. One, it's going to sell very quickly, and I'm going to be real mad at myself for not doing this 7 months earlier. And two, it's going to warp everything that I thought was true about theology. Like, I don't know how I'll be able to move forward. Honestly, I know I'll be able to move to the house that I want to be in, but I don't know how, like, spiritually I will be able to move forward, because this would just trump everything that I thought I knew about the Lord and how he wishes and desires for things to happen. Two, if it doesn't sell, Jesus Christ, I'm going to be so upset. I'm going to be so mad. I will no Once I bury St. Joseph, I am no longer at the point of acceptance. I'm at the point of defeatism. And then no matter what happens, I'm going to be upset. If it sells, I'll be like, thank you. Why did this work? Why? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to be mad at everyone.
So I'm hoping for the sake of like your family that it sells right away. I'm also hoping just for like the existential crisis, if this works like incredibly quickly, you'll be at like your foundations and someone will ask you like, oh, I heard that if there's a hurricane coming, you can burn a palm that you got on Palm Sunday and wave it outside. It'll make the hurricane go away. And you'll be like, yeah, probably.
My entire neighborhood in Central Texas gets destroyed and my house just stands here. I'm like, it didn't sell and I can't even get the insurance money. I'd be so angry.
Just whatever is the most insane, like pagan Catholic thing, like, oh yeah, that's probably true. That's probably what we believe and how things work. I don't know why.
It's driving me. The whole thing's driving me nuts. But I do not want to do this. But Paul always said that he does not do the things he wants to do, and he does the things that he doesn't want to do. Am I going to hell if I bury this in my yard this afternoon, Father Anthony?
If you are going to hell, it will not be because you buried St. Joseph upside down to sell your house.
Here's where I'm at. I think I live such a borderline life anyway that on any given moment, I could be going to heaven or to hell. And I feel like if I die, and that, like Jesus is the advocate, and he's looking at the Father, and he's like, I tried. And Satan's like, I'm pretty sure I got him. And then Jesus looks over at his other dad, his stepdad's also in the room. He looks at him, and St. Joseph's just in the corner, upside down, saying, no.
That's also insane. That when you bury a statue of St. Joseph upside down, his heavenly soul is upside down.
He's just constantly flipping over.
And that's why he gets the house's soul, because he wants it to be done with. It actually is a threat. He has motion sickness 24/7 in heaven. And he's angry.
Sell!
He's spitting.
Oh, this is the most ridiculous. I can't believe I got you laughing after dealing with Rich Doug. This makes me very happy.
It's good.
Okay, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm doing it today primarily for content, because I know the whole borderline thing. I've done borderline things for content in the past too, so why not?
You gotta document it. I want to see a video of you putting him in the hole. I want proof. We're testing the theory. We're testing the devotion.
I don't know if I want that. I literally just had a wave of fear and embarrassment come over me. Talking about it enough. I'm already sweating. I'm sweating my butt off. I'm already sweating. But when you said video it, I'm like, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can bring myself to, because I don't want there to be evidence.
Oh, Joseph already knows. He already is getting ready to spin upside down. So don't hide it.
I'm scared to touch him now. Now I'm being superstitious about the superstition. I'm terrified of what's about to happen. I cannot believe I've gotten to the point where I'm going to do this.
Yeah, you are. It's going to be great.
Man, because this is one of the worst things about me is this transition of I know something's wrong and I resist it for 6 months, and then I'm finally life has beaten me down, so I'm just going to do the thing that I know is not good, and that has led to bad things in my life. So why am I doing it again? I don't know. I just want the house to go bye-bye in a positive way. All right. Well, there's another prayer. There's in the medieval ages, a strange tradition was born known as the degradation of the saints.
Instead of bad.
Yeah, exactly. I understand. It was customary to threaten and torment their image until the person's request was granted. For instance, St. Joseph's head would remain buried until he sold the house, which would be done as quickly as possible to escape his uncomfortable position. Today
just
is a
his
tradition.
Head?
Yeah, just his head. So everything else is just, oh gosh. Today the tradition to bury the statue is the same, but instead we praise his goodwill and pray for him to grant a fast, profitable sale.
Wait, no.
This would be like me coming to your house this summer and punching you in the face and being like, are you sure I can come back next month? Are you sure? Are you sure I can come back next month? And every sentence I punched you in the face and you're like, yeah, sure. Come back next month. Let's do this again.
The problem is with that is like an explanation of where this came from. And it's saying like this started very problematically. And the next part should be how it is now a good thing. Like did the meaning of it change or whatever. But instead it's just like people did this to mock the saints. But now we do the exact same thing that was mocking and tormenting the saints out of weird superstition. But now we do it to praise the saint. And like, you're missing a part of the explanation that makes this okay. You're missing it. You made it worse because now I know exactly where this came from. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's wild.
This is a bad thing, and you should do it, and it will bring you closer to the Lord. Okay.
Yeah. But like we did the exact same bad thing, except now we bury him a little bit more, so his feet are in the air.
Yeah.
That's not better. That's just
now
different.
It's a respectful degradation, and we say prayers with the degradation.
Yeah, that's not doing it for me, man. I'm more against it than I was before. Now that I know this. Hey, you know.
Hi.
Hey, who knows? Hey, it's Joseph. He goes by mob boss rules. You threaten him, he'll sell your house. He owes you a favor.
If I find his head in my bed, I'm burning the house down. I'm burning the house down.
Sam, do you listen to this podcast? You have a chance to do the funniest thing. Sam.
She listens about a month late.
Yeah.
So if the house hasn't sold by then, I will have forgotten, which will be terrifying. And two, I'll be very angry at everything that's going on. So
that's potential to utterly break your psyche completely. I feel like we've come close before.
Yeah.
But if Sam finds a giant Joseph's head and puts it in your bed.
Yeah. I would hopefully I'd notice it and turn the joke back on her. Hi, honey. And rub its head and then go to sleep. Okay. All right. Since we're already on the topic of my front lawn, we'll continue there because I have something positive about my front lawn. And of course, once I bury St. Joseph upside down in that front yard, the whole yard will probably die and burn up. But that we'll see what happens. So I noticed this thing. It is currently right now. Not only am I sweating because I'm very stressed out about what I'm going to go do to the statue in about an hour and a half, but it's also incredibly hot. Father Anthony, it is currently 90 degrees as we record this towards the last day of October. It is almost November, and it is 90 degrees outside. It is 13 degrees above the average for today. You know, like the little weather app, it's like, hey, the average over the last, 20, 30 years. No. 13 degrees hotter. So not only did we have Texas summer, but Texas summer has turned into also Texas fall and I'm sure Texas Christmas. Like that's probably what we're doing. So because the house has been for sale, like we want everything to look nice. And, you know, the normal thing here in the summer is everybody's grass dies in the summer. Everybody, because like it did not rain at all last summer. I think I documented that last summer pretty well, that it was like the record for least amount of days before a drop of rain. Like it was like 90 something days for no rain. So like everything died and like, you know, it was just kind of accepted. Well, now like everything on our highways is dead. Like every blade of grass is dead. But I'm like, the house is on sale. So I would like to like improve this. Right. And so the grass died from about like, I don't know, May-ish until now. So it's been dead for that long. And because we live in Texas and we're used to hot, we're used to rain, all this kind of stuff, I haven't owned a sprinkler in a very, very long time. But I was like, look, we're playing this game of like, we need to save up enough money to be able to buy the house that we want, but we also can't, like, if we spend too much money fixing up this house, then we won't be able to afford the new house. But at the same time, if we don't fix up this house, no one will buy the house. That's where we've been for the last 7 months. Did I mention it's been about 7 months? So
yeah, I think you did like once. I think one time you did.
Just wanted to make sure that was coming through. So about 3 weeks ago, I went to Lowe's and I bought a sprinkler. And it's one of those things that, of course, I find a new issue with the house. Like the water pressure for some reason isn't that great, and it's this weird thing where I don't know what's going on. I don't understand. I turn the sprinkler on, and it's like it's a full, like it should be like a full yard sprinkler, and it sprinkles like a foot and a half above the ground for the first 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's like, we're awake, and then it goes into the full one. And I don't understand what's happening, but yeah. I've just accepted that everything sucks, and I'm like, oh, okay. So every other night, I go out, and with the sprinkler and how it works, I can essentially do 3 patches, and I essentially have 6 patches in my yard. So like one night I'll do these 3, the next night I'll do those 3, and it's this process of going out. I set a timer on my phone or my watch for 20 minutes. It waters that patch, move over to the next one, 20 minutes. So it's about an hour every time, every night I'm doing this. So it's costing some money, it's costing some time, but at the same time, add this to again, it's all these simple things that I'm adding to my repertoire of being an adult, taking care of the lawn. I've added, cooking with the air fryer, and I have stories about that. Like there's just all these new things that I'm doing that are simple human things that I'm adding to my life. Mm-hmm. So our grass, we've always had, and everybody in our neighborhood, because this used to just be the Texas plains, like there's like 4 different types of grass in our yard. Very nice yards have one type of grass, and it's all very nice, but that costs thousands of dollars to do. So we're not doing that. So we have like 5 different kinds of grass. So when they're all in, it looks great. And then on other times, it's like, the ones that look like Texas sage bushes or whatever, those are doing great all the time because they don't need any water. And then the like pretty grass, of course, is the one that's dead. So I've been watering and watering and watering. It's costing me time, money, effort. And over the course of like the last month or so that I've been watering, my yard looks pretty good. I currently have the second best looking yard on our block. The one that has the best is the house next door that whenever the previous owner bought it at a foreclosure, they came in, did a bunch of work, including ripping everything out, resodding, making it nice grass. Yeah. And then, the neighbors take care of it. So it looks nice. Mine is now the second best. Everybody else's yard is yellow. Mine is now 80% green. And I was looking at it the other day and I was like happy with it and proud of it with the progress that it's made, but it still doesn't look great. It doesn't look as good as it did in May when we put it like the pictures that we have of the house that are on the, Zillow or whatever. Like there have been updates we've made inside the house where actually the inside of the house looks better than the pictures we took on Zillow. But that's the one thing that I feel like, okay, we want people to see what they see online when they come here. We don't want them to think we duped them or tricked them, right?
Yeah.
Well, I still think people are understanding of like, it's the summer, it hasn't rained. Okay. But it looks nice. And I started thinking about how that's essentially how my spiritual life has been for the last 7 months. Like everything dead, everything's dead. Everything looks crappy. And then it's going to take me a month of time, energy, money to put in a lot of effort, and it will improve slowly over time. Never back to how it was before, but, but better than it was a month ago. Yeah. And I have just found it frustrating because I found this to be true at multiple times in my life, that it does not take me very long to get to spiritual dryness and deadness, but it almost always takes me a very long time to rebuild. And I find that frustrating. And I would like for the priest to give me some insight and wisdom because I don't like it. I want God to appear back to me as fast as he left.
Interesting. I can say some things about that, but I'm also thinking about the fact that like maybe like a month or 2 into your house selling endeavor, I said mass for the sake of you selling your house, and that's done nothing.
I know,
like
and I asked
sacrifice of the mass.
I asked you to do it a week before it went on the market, so you admitting that it was 2 months late. I think it's your fault. I'm just going to blame you. I've been blaming God this whole time, but now you're here, and I can point my anger in a direction.
Yeah. I mean, it was not right away. In between a month or 2 months, when at the time I got a free mass, and I'm just
that's when the showing stopped.
So this makes everything all the more distressing. Like of the holy sacrifice of the mass that had anyway. So the prayer life takes constant maintenance. It's the hardest part of it is that it takes constant work. And so yeah, like that part's normal. The forging of a discipline of prayer, taking time to be in relationship with God, does take time, effort, and yeah, in some cases it even takes money because maybe you have to put aside other things in order to do this other thing. But sometimes I wonder because we have this habit, this tendency. It's among a lot of people I've worked with to always assume that there was a golden age in our prayer life where things were better, where I was holy, where I didn't have worries, where I didn't have cares. And when I hear that, and I get that feeling. I think about me in high school and going to youth group and then spending extra time just praying in front of the tabernacle. And I was like, wasn't I holier then? And you can see why someone would think that because, like, look what I was doing, and I felt better. But I wonder if that's what real holiness is. Like, don't get me wrong, that's good for where you're at, a beautiful thing. But as you grow as a person, as you experience more sufferings and enter more deeply into suffering, where sometimes like you can suffer very greatly in high school, absolutely, that's a real thing, right? But as you get older, you know what there's going to be? More suffering. And when you have a family, you know what there's going to be? A lot more suffering. And so those things that were kind of like theories are now deeper realities. And we experience them in a more raw, real way. And we experience the cross in a deeper way. And in a way that we feel it more in our bones than we did before. And so not feeling good about that isn't necessarily a sign that you're not holy. Like, yeah, sure, sometimes we totally abandon our prayer lives and everything. But once we get back, the one statement about your metaphor is like, it's never going to look as good as it did before. It will look different. And maybe it doesn't seem as outwardly shiny. But I doubt that means that it was better before. In some ways, it becomes stronger that you have suffered these things with the Lord or experienced his mercy again, that you came back to him. And just because it looks different, and of course your prayer life is going to look different when you're selling a house, when you have at least 2 kids, the third of which is dead to me, and you have a wife who you have to care for as well. Like, yeah, it's going to look very different, and it might not look as shiny, but I don't know if that means that it's worse. Sometimes I think we're too hard on ourselves, and we look back on our past and say that was when I was holy. It's like, no, because you didn't have as heavy of a cross, and it doesn't feel as good now, but it doesn't mean you're less holy. So I think that's important to remember,
Yeah, and that's a great jumping off point to where I thought we were going to start this episode, which is when I was celebrating my birthday week. So Friday was my birthday. The Sunday before, my wife and I went to our parish date night. I don't know if I've told you about these before, but we have about 3 a semester or so, and it's all married couples and engaged couples are invited to come to our parish activity center. We have a dinner, we have a speaker, we have some time to talk amongst other couples. There's some time to just look to your spouse and say loving things and commit to how you're going to be better together, and then forget about it on Monday. But we didn't forget about it this Monday because we actually made a plan. And the irony of this one is that the topic for this date night, is the first one of the semester, was spiritual intimacy amongst the couples. Spiritual intimacy. So,
sounds hot.
Yeah, it was hot topic, spicy topic, all these sorts of things, right? And just because I'm on pastoral council and involved with the parish, and my wife works at the parish, I get to know the other side of things, right? So. Mm-hmm. This spiritual intimacy was supposed to be the end of a series that we did last semester. Because if I remember correctly, it was something about like communicating well and how to deal with conflict in a marriage. And then the other one was like, I forget what it was, but like, just like kind of like remembering your, when your first love and kind of like reconnecting to, your that sort of thing, right? Reconnecting. And the third one was supposed to be the spiritual intimacy. So kind of the like practical intimacy, things that get in the way of intimacy. And then this last one was supposed to be spiritual intimacy.
Sure.
They asked a couple to give it. And that couple was like, hell no, we're not doing that in front of our entire community. And then they asked us. And I was like, hell no, I'm not giving that talk in front of my entire community. And they asked about 3 or 4 other couples. And they all said no. So date night was canceled.
Oh, no.
So they had an entire summer and most of the fall to plan this one. And so they asked this couple who have been very influential in my adult life, like the last 10 years that I've lived here. I played poker with them. I did youth ministry with her. I've just known both of them for a long time. And he is a new-ish deacon, I think 2 years, a little over 2 years of being a deacon. And so they asked them. And they said yes, because the deacons have to say yes, I think, when the priest asks them to do something, that sort of thing. So
it's an unwritten rule, yeah.
Yeah. So they gave the talk, and it was lovely. It was beautiful. And it was one of those things that, like, everybody was afraid of the conversation, because it's always hard. It's an awkward thing. And honestly, it's like one of the things that I think a lot of couples struggle with, right? It's like, we can go to mass together. We can make a faith a big part of our life. We can do the intimacy thing. Mm-hmm. Fine. But when it comes to like praying together and doing things, like, that's where it's like, this is awkward. I want to do this by myself.
It's so funny to me. It's the funniest thing about married life to me. It's like, you guys do weird stuff together. Actually, sorry, it's very good and holy in the context of marriage, but praying together gives you the heebie-jeebies. I find that hilarious. It's a fairly universal thing, and I find that hilarious.
It's very true. Maybe we'll bury Mary upside down next, and it'll help our prayer life. I don't know, but they did it, and they did it very practically. Like, it wasn't saccharine, which I think most conversations about spiritual intimacy are. It wasn't like, I've heard other couples do this, and they're always like the perfect, most holy couple. And it's like, it's one of those things like people think about the saints a lot. It's like, that is so foreign from my experience of life that I'm not even going to try, because I can never be like you, right? Well, what they primarily talked about, and there was a moment where the deacon was talking, and it's like, some of their suffering has been very public. Like, they had a public issue, a health issue with one of their grandkids. Very public, very scary, very tough for many, many months. And like, the whole community was praying for them. So like, we know things haven't been easy, even just in the last few years for them, right? And like, I know the family pretty well. Like, I've seen their struggles. I've seen the beauty. I've seen everything. And like, seeing the deacon, the husband, in tears, on the verge of tears, talking about how much he loves his wife, and how he's loved her from when they met, and how he loves her even more through all this stuff that they've been through. It was just like, it gave me goosebumps. It was a super, super sweet thing. And then they talked about just some practical things. They were like, essentially like, trying to fix, for whatever reason, this very simple thing clicked in my mind and in my wife's mind, because my wife is holier than me. That's true for, I think, most couples, right? But she does go to daily mass often. She often goes at school with our kids. She brings the kids to school in the morning, because I'm not awake. It is a requirement to be awake to drive a car in the state of Texas. I don't know how it is up in Pennsylvania, but you need to be awake to drive a car. So I don't go. I don't bring them to school. I don't go to mass at 8:15 or 8:30, whenever they start. And we had this thing where it's like, she's been going to daily mass, I don't know, 3 times a week. And I go whenever I'm paid to go, like on retreat, or if I'm at a conference, or that sort of thing. So they were talking about the practicals of like going to mass together. They're like, we're older, and he's like, he's still working, but it's like, they can go to daily mass pretty often together, and that's really special for them, because he's on the altar on Sunday mass. It's like, they can't do Sunday mass together. So we looked at each other, and we were like, because one of the suggestions was like, read a book together, like a spiritual book together, and talk about it. I was like, that's a beautiful idea. Like, I read a lot of spiritual books, and like, we can just do one together and talk about it at a weekly date. Okay, great. We've been doing that a little bit more. Thursday, Friday afternoon, lunchtime, cool. But then we were like, it did not dawn on us that we could go to other mass times. Like, it just never crossed our minds. Very, very stupid, but like, literally never crossed our minds, because this was just the patterns that we've built ourselves into, right?
Yeah.
Well, she was like, on Thursdays, I can just not go to school mass, and we can go to noon mass at this other parish. We never thought to go to a different parish with a better time for our schedule. We can go to this other parish. There's confession before. We can go to confession. We can go to mass, and we can go to lunch after. So that was the plan. but it was
Yeah.
also kind of like our birthday thing. So like she came home, she made breakfast, we watched a TV show, we went to confession, we went to mass, we went and worked out together, and then we stopped and got lunch on the way home. Like we had like a 4.5 hour date kind of for my
Yeah.
birthday because it was the day before my birthday. And it was just like, it was so very simple.
Mhm.
And it was like this cool moment of like spiritual intimacy of like us going to mass together and praying together. And like we even did something that you and I have both publicly said that we do not like. And yet I still enjoyed it. I still made fun of them a little bit, but I did enjoy it. There
Okay.
was a group rosary before mass that you didn't have a choice whether you engaged in or not, because that's
Guess that's what's happening.
it was in the church, and I did my confession, and the priest was like, say one Our Father and 3 Hail Marys, and then pray Psalm 51. Read through Psalm 51, and so the Our Fathers and Hail Marys were built in because they were saying the rosary. I did have to wait to read the psalm because I can't read while other people are talking. That's just how my brain works.
Mhm.
But I did my penance, and everything was good. And it was great. It was great. It was a great afternoon. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
No, that's beautiful. It goes to show, like, yeah, it doesn't have to be terribly complicated, Yeah. It is funny because, like, the idea of if things in our lives are kind of working, then we don't look to fix them, which in some scenarios, that's a good thing, right?
Right.
But sometimes, like, just because something is kind of working doesn't mean that it couldn't work better. So like you bringing your wife bringing your kids to school mass, going to mass, like that's kind of working and things are kind of okay. And so we don't think about like, what about a different parish? What about different mass time? And kind of being open to like those ideas. That's great. Just a little thing like that. I think there's something like very beautiful about a husband and wife going to confession, not together, obviously, because you're not in the same, you're not in like the booth together, right? But it's kind of, there's something about that that's striking me where you don't have to have a whole big conversation. Sometimes that can be important, need to do it, but it's kind of acknowledge that like, hey, we're both working on stuff and we both know and have a good idea of the stuff we're working on and the stuff we're not so good at. And we're acknowledging it kind of together. And we are still here together. And there's something about that is deeply intimate. Like you don't, and nor would I would suggest that you definitely don't, after you go to confession to the priest, say everything you said to your spouse. That's not healthy. It's not a good idea. But just the fact that you both went, that's communicating something very important just by itself. And then going to mass and then doing something fun. Or even just doing the thing to like improve yourselves together. Like you're working out. That's great. That's good
I
stuff.
love the priest being honest. Go to mass and then do something fun. Correct. You're correct. But I just thought that was a funny thing to
Mass
say.
doesn't, mass is important. Not every important thing is fun, Roller coasters are fun. And they're not the same as mass. Hey, mass is more important than roller coasters.
They're way
but they're
better.
different.
I mean, okay.
What
you said. What you said.
Oh, man. You better bury 2 St. Josephs after that comment.
Yeah, exactly. Who's the patron saint of falling out of roller coasters? It's probably Saint Christopher, patron saint of travelers.
Yeah.
I'll bury him upside down, and if he exists, he'll punish me.
Patron saint of unintended travelers, because you're not intending to travel that way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I have like 18 other stories, but I'm going to save them for next week.
Sounds good.
Because you don't have 3 hours to do a podcast with me.
I don't.
I'll stick with just this date day that my wife and I had. As I was experiencing this 2 hours in church, because we were there for confession and we wanted to get there with time. So we confession, prayer, penance, rosary, mass, all this stuff took about 2 hours, hour 45. So I was thinking about this, and the thing that sparked my thought about this was I was kneeling, doing my penance in the chapel where, essentially it was where confession was and where mass was going to be. And there was adoration going on. And I was kneeling down, and right in front of me was someone's watch. That clearly the watch, like there was nobody coming and going. Like we had been there for an hour. There's nobody coming and going. Somebody had left it there. And I was thinking about it. Stealing a watch is wrong. Now,
Correct.
you could argue, we could argue about like if it's just sitting on a park bench and nobody's there, you look around and I made an effort to find somebody, but do you leave it there? Do you take it? It's like, okay, there can be some great things, but like stealing someone's watch, if I just took it and like put it in my pocket and be like, hey, nobody's going to know it's me because I've never been here before or I haven't been to the church in years, so I'm not coming back for a while. So stealing a church is wrong. Is stealing a watch from a church a higher grade of sin than stealing a watch from a park bench.
Huh.
Because you are in God's house, you're in the presence of the Lord physically, like body, blood, soul, and divinity, not just, he's there at the park bench too, right? But like adoration was happening, and even if adoration isn't happening, like he's there in the tabernacle, like he is physically present. Is it worse to steal a watch in a church than it is to steal a watch from a park bench?
That is a very interesting question. So, I'm leaning towards, my immediate thought is yes. Because in a way, even though it's like the church is set aside as a place where, in a particular way, this is where the holy is and where the holy occurs. And so being in this like privileged place of closeness to God, to kind of, reject that privilege to do a sin it strikes me as worse. I don't think stealing a watch in church is at the level of mortal sin. It's just like you're a jerk. It's a sin. You should confess that probably. But there's something about the fact that because you are in closer proximity to the holy, that there are higher expectations of you in a certain sense. Now, when I say that, I don't want people to think that like, oh, so sins outside of church are less bad. Like, I don't want to think that. Like, oh, I mean, I'm not in a church. I can steal a watch. No. It's not that sins in the yeah.
Any sin outside of a church, free reign.
Exactly.
Murders galore.
But there is something that's like that's expected of you in a certain sense. Especially because it's the proximity to the sacrament as well. If there's a sin that's done in the privacy of your home, that's a sin. It can even be a mortal sin. But if it's done like in a sanctuary, sometimes you have to like reconsecrate that sanctuary, depending on like what has gone on. And there are people who do vandalizing things in sanctuaries, right? Because that place is set aside for the holy, and you have brought something unholy into it. So yeah, I'm leaning towards yes. I just wouldn't want the people hearing the answer to then assume that, okay, so here's the thing. Sinning in a church, I think, is worse. That doesn't mean sinning outside of a church is better. Does that make sense? That's kind of what I'm thinking. That's the kind of vibes I got. It's not a...
Right. I think it would be similar to like, it's a misdemeanor if I punch you in the face because we're in a scuffle. It's a felony if I do it to an officer. Like I'm in the presence of someone important.
I think there's something about that,
thing. But when it comes to... So I was thinking about it in levels. And like, I genuinely wanted to ask you and hear what you wanted to say, but I was thinking about like there have been things that like you were mentioning with altars where like degrading an altar either by destroying it or by doing things on it that you shouldn't be doing. I have heard of cases of both of those. I think destroying an altar in a church is way worse of a sin than destroying the park bench. Way worse. Now, when it comes to things that aren't necessarily involved with the holy things, like the watch I thought was a pretty good example because I'm like I'm not sure. I'm genuinely not sure if it's worse or if it's not, because it's like this whole thing like, well, God is watching. I'm like, he's watching me at the park too, right? But and then I was thinking of a really practical one of like, but I think everyone's assumption would be that it's worse. And then the reason that I know this is that the watch was there for a while. If it was on the park bench, it would not be there for a while because nobody would feel bad about it. And I think it's similar with cussing. Like we have this weird thing with cussing where like I can cuss anywhere I want to. As long as I'm not with teenagers or at church, I can say whatever I want essentially, right? But for some reason, if somebody cusses in a church, everyone clutches their pearls and stuff. And it's like, is it worse, or have we just told not to cuss so often in church that we think it is?
Okay, I think I have a better explanation. So I want to put the cussing thing to a side because language is weird, and people might disagree with some of the things I think about language. But the watch, I think the reason why it's worse is because you're probably more culpable of that sin. Because you're more aware of the presence of God, you are more aware that stealing that watch is bad. it's harder to convince yourself that stealing the watch is okay in church. So if you conquer that knowledge, like you're like, I really know what I'm doing is wrong and I'm going to do it anyway. Whereas it's easier to convince yourself that like, oh, stealing a watch in a park is not so bad. Because maybe it's not even really
the next guy's going to take it anyway. Why shouldn't
exactly
I have this
so
reward?
The sin itself is the same, but you're more culpable for it because you're more aware of what you're doing is a sin. I think that's probably the better answer for that thing.
I think so too, because I didn't like your first answer, and this one
I didn't like it either.
It's actually settling with like how I just experienced both those things, like not stealing and cussing. Like I'll say whatever I want. I'm playing video games. I'm not saying it in church. I'm not saying it around teenagers, and like I have that ability to do that. So, yeah, I think that's very good. So,
yeah,
last little piece from this. It's my last question from this. No, I have two other questions. One's quick, and one might take a few minutes, and then we'll be done. So. Cool. Can I pregame my penance? Because two reasons. One, I've been told multiple times that the penance is all about renewing my relationship with the Lord. It is not a requirement in order to be absolved. It's not like my absolution dissolves if I forget to say my penance or whatever.
True.
And also, I've been going to confession for a very long time. If it's not 1 Our Father, 3 Hail Marys, like... that's the rarity. 90% of the time, that's what it is, right? Yeah. So I'm already there in church, in line, reconnecting myself to the Lord. I'm pretty sure Father's going to give me 1 Our Father, 3 Hail Marys. So while I'm waiting in line, after I do my examination of conscience, I know what I'm going to say. I say an Our Father and I say 3 Hail Marys because, like I mentioned earlier, the rosary is going on because I'm saying them whether I would like to or not. So I go in, and sure enough, I get 1 Our Father and 10 Hail Marys because he knows that rosary's going on, and that's probably what I'm going to be able to do anyway. So that's what he gives me. I'm like, okay, I've already done the Our Father and 3 Hail Marys. Now I just need to pay attention for 7 more. Can I pregame the penance, or does that not work?
Okay, so that does not work.
I
know. Because when you were doing it before, it was not a penance given to you by the priest. It was just a good thing to do.
It felt like penance.
yeah. Public rosaries always feel like penance to me too. I get it. And in a certain sense, it can be a kind of penance in which you are taking a penance upon yourself because you know you've sinned, and that's a good thing. That's a virtuous thing that can lead you to holiness and more openness to forgiveness. All good, but it was not the penance given to you by the priest. You can't do it until it's given to you. So, and you can't like cash in penance that you've saved up.
I have coupons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, because it's not a penance until it's been told to you that it's a penance.
Even if I know what he's going to say before he says it.
Correct. God knows what we're going to do before we do it, but we still have the freedom to do it or not. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna agree that one and yet still boo you on that one. Final question. The gospel reading that day was that Jesus saying, "I have come not to bring peace but the sword. I have come to put father against son, and son against father, and mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, and mother-in-law." And it just goes on for over and over and over again, repeating things unnecessarily. It frustrates me, but. All I could think about while hearing that gospel was, "You are my Prince of Peace, and I will live my life for you." And here we are in late October reading Jesus verbatim saying, "I have come not to bring peace." And then all through Advent and Christmas season next month, we're going to be calling him the Prince of Peace, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings. How can he be the Prince of Peace when him saying, "I have come not to bring peace"? How? I don't understand.
So those were all the same thoughts I had as I was reading that gospel that day for daily mass. I was like, I got to explain this because this is obviously confusing.
Do you, before you share it with us, do you think it was successful?
Do I think it was successful? Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Then continue.
Yeah, because I mean, this is one of those things. Jesus says one thing on one, this happens throughout. How do you reconcile these seemingly contradictory things in the Bible? So the way I preached it was Jesus is saying, as much as like concord and peace is important, acceptance of him is more important. And there's always going to be people who do not accept him. And you should not, for the sake of peace in a worldly sense, reject him in order to not have an argument with your family, right? This is the thing that happens. I'm teaching OCIA, formerly known as RCIA, should be called just How to Become Catholic class. And sure enough, like very often there are people who are becoming Catholic and it's going to cause division and pain in their family. Does that mean they should not do it? Actually, no, they have to do it because you have to accept the truth if you know it's true, right? And so in that sense, the priority is the truth of Jesus Christ. And if that brings division, yeah, it's going to happen and you have to deal with that. And of course, Jesus doesn't say you just have to deal with it. He's going to be there with you and help you and heal you and all that good stuff, right? Sure. So he's talking about peace in one sense of this kind of like basic human harmony, tolerance kind of thing. Because in the deeper sense, their only way to receive true peace is to accept him. So that's what he's talking about, this kind of thing. Like, because to choose Christ is not a neutral choice. Like whether or not I have a hamburger or chicken fingers for lunch, both are delicious. But that doesn't matter. That's not going to
figure out which one you're going to put the pesto on, and I don't think it's fair.
I know, yeah. Maybe the burger, a pesto burger. I think you can do that anyway, right? Or even chicken, like because you do. Anyway,
Germany, yeah, because every time something German and something Italian mix, it's always good for the world.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway. Oh man, lost my train of thought on that one. I'm hungry. Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those are like choices that are neutral. No one's going to love me or hate me because of one of those choices. But to choose or not choose Jesus, that is going to cause a reaction. That's going to utterly change your life one way or the other. And so as a matter of course, that's going to bring division. It's not like Jesus is excited for division's sake, but the need to accept him trumps this kind of human peace and concord, because only true peace comes through accepting him. And that can occur even when people hate you. So that's what he's talking about. It's a different understanding of what peace is. He's like, I'm here, and Pharisees are going to try to kill me because I am here, because God and holiness and love is here. That's going to make people violent. And I'm okay with that in the sense that it's still important for me to be here and proclaim the truth. And so if that means swords and division, then fine, because true peace only comes from the acceptance of the truth. I did that in like 2 minutes, so maybe they understood. Maybe they didn't. No.
And one day, maybe Rich Doug will find peace. But if that day does not come, you and I will both be burying bodies sometime this week. Yeah. All right. Well, y'all pray for me and my soul, because I'm going to go outside and bury this thing. Pray for Father Anthony's soul as well as he deals with Rich Doug and George and Mason and everything that he has going on. I thought this is quite dandy of a podcast. You did good, buddy.
Thanks. It was fun. And it did brighten my mood. Especially the St. Joseph, man. I'm going to think about that a lot more. I want to know, does the grass around St. Joseph, does it die? Does it grow greener? I want all the data you can accumulate. It's very important to me.
That's all this podcast is going to be for the next few weeks. Just checking in on my front yard.
It needs to be a segment. I think it's very important. The people want to know.
The people want to know. All right. Well, I'm Taylor Stroll. That's Father Anthony Sciarappa. I'll be back in a month. Nope. I'll be back next week. He'll be back in a month. See ya. Thank you for watching, listening to today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that subscribe button wherever you are watching or listening. That truly, truly helps us. We've got a lot going on our YouTube channel right now, youtube.com/Forte Catholic. Not only do we have full-length episodes of this show every week, but we also have our Catholic Apologetics series that we are currently halfway through. This is a talk series that I'm doing for our parish. We've talked about what apologetics is and how to best share the faith. We talked about faith and science. We talked about the proofs of God's existence. And this past week, we did our part 1 of some of the common objections to Catholicism from other Christians and our response to that. It's been a really fun new challenge for me. People seem to be enjoying it. You can check out all 4 videos that have come out already and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next 4. We've got so much other stuff going on there. Go check it out. If you would like to support Forte Catholic, especially as we continue my birthday celebrations, fortecatholic.com/donate is the best way to do that. You can give a one-time donation for my birthday. Or you can join our monthly donor base, $5 a month, $10 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever you have in your budget to support some good Catholic ministry. We would truly appreciate it. Until next week, love you.